Molweni. Hello. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Life with Siphe. Thank you for taking the time to come and tune in and listen. Please remember to subscribe so that when I upload a video, you get a direct notification on your cell or your tablet. Also, please like the video, of course, if you like it, and comment and tell me how you feel about this topic. So today I want to talk about something very dear to my soul, something I've always thought about for a very long time, but I was contemplating doing it because I feel like, I don't want to misguide people with information, but I'm like, no man, I want to share my experience, right? So let me just Wusa. I even have incense going on. Guys, it's very important to create an environment for your spirits to just really connect and be fully present with what you're doing. Hence the incense for me. It really just helps me be myself more. Anyways, so I hope you guys are good. Today we're talking about menstruation. Also, shout out to women all over in this entire universe, in this realm. Today in South Africa is the 9th of August and it is National Women's Day. There's a political history line to it. There's so many things. Women are a force of nature. Women are life itself. Women are, a woman bears life in her. So happy Women's Day. I don't want to say be strong, be resilient, because that's who you are as a female, right? I just want to remind females to be soft, to allow themselves to be vulnerable, to be taken care of, to be loved upon, to also be nurtured, not always be nurturing, I feel like even for myself as a Siphe, I have gotten so much into the flow of life and life being challenging and difficult, and I'm just always fight mode, that I'm being intentional at this point in my life to be mindful about the fact that I'm feminine and that I want to be loved. I want to be doted upon. I want to be protected, So to all the women out there, don't forget to love on yourself, to allow love as well, to love on you and to take care of you, and you don't always have to be the one carrying the load. So put the load down, man. Whew, okay, so that was special. Like I said, today we're talking about menstruation. I'm gonna talk about my experience, and then because I feel like there's a medical aspect to it, and then there's also a spiritual aspect to it, right? And as I'm growing, I am learning so much more about menstruation and what it means for me, and how I can make that process in my life smoother, and that it doesn't always have to be as heavy as it is, right? So I'll also obviously try to not just generalize it according to a female's point of view, so that my male viewers as well can connect and can understand. And especially I would recommend that men who have daughters to share this video, right? Because I feel like I never had this growing up. So my experience, menstruation. My grandmother was a nurse, a very well-known, in-depth, healer, a nurse. And she loved education. So I was very surprised that I never got teachings about this section of life. Because it just happened. And no one explained nothing to me. So I was in my 11, 12, 13 years of life. And primary. I even remember on Generations, on that period, it was the period that Untombi, Nosbusiso were together, and Ntombi had a miscarriage, right? And I'm at the time with 12. I don't know what a miscarriage is, and all we're shown was she was sitting on the toilet floor and there's a little blood, and I think that was the only reference I had with seeing a female in that night, but I also really didn't know what that meant, right? So you'll see why I'm telling the story. So I'm this teenage girl, and I remember at home, the only thing I was ever told, Siphe, you don't play with boys. You will have a baby. no explanation of how, when, what the actual situation is. Just that don't play with boys, don't kiss a boy, don't hug a boy, because if you do, you're gonna have a baby. I don't know what that meant, but I was like, okay, cool. Just stay away from a boy. Sning on a Friday at school, primary school. I remember my crush at the time, La Vela. I don't know where he went to this world. Anyways, so La Vela asked me for a hug. Stupid me, I gave La Vela a hug. I hug La Vela, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I hug La Vela. And then I go home, and it's the secret was. I get it because they said don't hug a boy at home. And then no stress. Then I watched this episode of Generations when Tomi's having a miscarriage, and they're just showing her sitting on the bathroom floor, and there's blood coming out, and then they say, "Ooh, she had a miscarriage." Whatnot. Right? That was the Friday after I hugged her. Then a random morning, I remember waking up, and before I opened my eyes, I could feel that something don't make sense. Why do I feel wet? But I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, Siphe, you're 12. You can't have peed on yourself. And at the time, I used to sleep with my mom. So as I wake up, I notice, okay, my mom's not here. So I'm like, oh geez, I'm embarrassed. I have peed on myself. And as I get out of bed, because my thing is, okay, let me quickly get this together and sort it out before my mom realizes, because I'm a 12-year-old peeing on myself. When I open the blankets, oh my gosh, something I've never ever in my life seen before. I see all this blood, and I'm thinking, oh my god, I had a miscarriage. Because I hugged La Vela, and I was told home, don't hug La Vela because you will have a baby. So from what I'd seen from Undomi, I'm like, oh my goodness me. So now I'm sitting in the bed crying because I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I say to my mom? Whoa, I had a miscarriage, wada wada, right? Then, before I could like gather my thoughts and understand what's going on, my mom comes in and then she's doing whatever, and then she's like, hey, why don't you like just get up? It's daytime. And I start crying. She starts coming close to me, and she comes towards the bed, and then I can't remember, I think I opened the blanket, and then she saw. Guys, imagine my mom just laughed at me and walked away. She laughed and laughed and laughed, and then all of a sudden she called my big sister, she called my aunt, and yo, Siphe. So they keep on saying, Siphe's not a period, and I have no idea what a period is. I don't know what this means to me. I don't know. I know nothing. And then all of a sudden, sure, they call my older cousins, sisters. Everyone's laughing at me like, oh, this is such a cool thing, whatever. And I think to myself, guys, I'm so confused. I remember, to cut a long story short, sure, I got a brief explanation of pads, and that was it. And oh, this is gonna happen to you every month, and that was it. And I remember the first day was so uncomfortable because I couldn't understand what was going on in my body, right? And then as I grew up, obviously in high school, then I started learning about the how to make a baby, medically speaking. But also that didn't really teach me, as a female, about my internal organs. I got the medical understanding of it, but to be honest, I was learning it because I was a student in class, not because I thought the information could help me and I would understand my menstrual cycle better, right? And then as I progressed into my varsity years, I started experiencing period pains, and it just started being a very miserable time in my life when I'm on my periods. Dark thoughts, moodiness, it just felt like the end of the world. And then also, honestly, I feel like there is a level of trauma to it, because I don't feel like in the female community, or even abantu abadala to abantwana, we talk about it, so that we can give each other support. And also, man, I just feel like in today's world, a woman must be strong, and so even if you are having period cramps and you're at work, you must still push. But actually, I don't think we really understand what is happening inside of us and why it is taking such a toll. So therefore, in all of that, we need to be present in that time and to respect that time, and do things that will nurture us during our menstrual cycle, right? So now I want to get into the more medical explanation of what menstruation is, right? So menstruation is broken down into 4 phases, right? You've got the menstruation phase, the follicle phase, ovulation phase, and the luteation phase. Yes, right? So I'm gonna break down these phases. The menstrual phase is firstly a woman's cycle, lasts up to anything to, let's say, 28 days, 30 days. It honestly depends. Yeah, 28 days. It depends with every female. And then the actual days that you are on your menstruation phase is anything from 1 to 7 days, right? So what happens is in that menstruation phase, in those 7 days, depending on your cycle, that is when your female internal organs clean themselves, right? Where the lining that was thick and didn't receive a baby flushes itself out. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but that period, ladies, right? I don't know if you know this, but like back in the day, abantu abangomama, you know, as people who are at home, always cooking, being the garden, nurturing this and that, during the time of menstruation, history shows that the men in the house would take over for that 3 to 5 days when a woman is going through her menstruation, for a number of reasons. Some reasons we may know, some we don't. And then there's this term that bothers me of, does menstruation make you dirty? Like, so I think because in some cultures, for example in Kenya, I know of a village where when women go through their periods, they are sent to like a secluded part of the village because they're regarded as dirty, which is just another episode on its own, honestly. I probably might end up having to do a part 2 about this because there's a really spiritual element about periods and spirituality and the feminine energy. I probably will do a part 2. Anyways, so that's the menstrual phase. Menstrual phase, ladies, this is the time when your energy is low, you need compassion, you're slow, you're sensitive, and your emotions are just, you know, so restless. I usually even have insomnia when I'm on my menstruation cycle. There's a possibility of period pains. We all know period pains. There are mild ones and then there are severe ones. Severe ones are where you are recommended to actually go to the doctor and go have yourself checked out because, you know, there might be a serious problem. Then we have the follicle phase, which is after your period, after that 7 days. That period, ladies, is called pre-ovulation. It's a spring in the sense of your season, right, of your menstrual cycle. It's seen as spring. You're playful, you feel driven, you feel focused, you feel clean because, you know, all of that's gone out of your system. Also, your bowel system goes back to normal, you know, and even your mood lightens up more. Then we go to, I guess, what most females' favorite part is, and we're not even aware that this happens because we take it for granted because we just like it's a cycle that's just supposed to happen. This phase is the ovulation phase. Ovulation phase, your energy is at its peak, you're glowing, you're active. It's like a summer, really. You're feeling sensual, sexual as a female. You just pop it, man, because I mean, what's happening to you medically inside of you? Your ovulation is when your egg is released from your ovaries for it to be potentially met by sperm. So yeah, it's a beautiful time of nurturing. Usually I like to do things like being out in the sun, doing my nails, like feminine stuff that just make me feel good as a woman, right? Then the last phase is the luteal phase. That is the last phase of the cycle. It's usually from day 23 to 29. It's basically the fall. It's where, you know, you should practice stillness and just uzila, to mourn, to retract and go towards inside, inward, because that's where at that end of that cycle, like the fourth one, you also start to like experience PMS, right? Yes, PMS is premenstrual syndrome, right? I know guys sometimes say it as a joke. It's not. It's an actual thing, because you have mood swings, your anxiety increases, you are crying easily for any reason. Honestly speaking, headache, poor sleep, acne. Another one that I usually experience is tender breasts. Like, oh my goodness me, the week before my period, I swear like my breasts feel like guns, and if you like bump me by mistake, it's like, oh my word. Yeah, and slight cramps, and then also food cravings, and a decrease in your libido. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was a more medical explanation of the 4 cycles of menstruation. I want to do a part 2. On the part 2, I want to focus on what I consider the spiritual side of menstruation, right? And that being, I'm not sure if you didn't know this, now you will know it, that actually our cycles, menstrual cycles as females, is connected to the moon. And the moon itself goes through 4 phases. The moon has a new moon, a waxing moon, a full moon, and a waning moon. Now in my next part 2 video, I will explain to you how those phases of the moon connect to you, and how you as a female can better understand yourself and your cycle, and how you can take care of yourself more, right, during that time. And I just want to give tips at the end of this part 1, that during your menstrual cycle, sleep in, have a slow morning. Like, I feel like even with the places we work at, our employers should be sensitive to the fact that when you are going through your menstruation, it's not something you have to make known, but there's just sensitivity around it, where I think, because I believe you teach people how to treat you. Also, when you're feeling certain things, you move in a different way and you retract a bit, so that you are able to just take care of yourself more. So if you wake up that morning of your menstrual pain, like not pain, like the first day for instance, and you just feel like, my body's just not, don't force it, because that's where now we are like literally fighting the current, where we're supposed to let everything flow. We are making it more difficult on ourselves. So do the things that make it a little more easier. Have that ginger cup of tea or peppermint tea, or focus on the things you know usually ease your pain during that time. I know a hot water bottle is also something very helpful. And even with your thoughts, that's when, as females, you need to be more kinder to yourself, because I know that's where we tend to exaggerate and just focus on all the things that we don't have, that we so badly want. I know for me, actually, the first day of my period, I always feel like, a confirmation that I'm not pregnant. Not that I'm trying to, or that I even have a partner, but it's just like a morning of understanding that a potential, because remember, your womb creates this cycle where every month you could potentially hold life in it. So that's life not realized. So hence the mourning during that menstrual phase. Also during your follicular phase, right after your period, ladies, I would suggest you go for a run, a walk, jogging. Also, it's a great time to set intentions, have ideas, be focused, choose what you want for this month, what you want to focus on, what you want to work on, because even your hormones and your body is just like in a space that's creative, so use that effectively. Then you have the ovulation phase. The ovulation phase, that's when you're glowing, you're nice. Take yourself out, go to the spa, do the thing that you enjoy the most, because also your feminine energy, it's at its high, it's at its creation, nurturing, bubbly self, right? And then lastly, on the luteal phase, that's when you start retracting back again, because Anditi, you're going towards the end of your cycle, back to about to start with your menstruation. So wear a face mask, put on your favorite movie in bed, organize your closet, like work on internal things. Be aware that, okay, as Siphe, I'm struggling with this and this and this mentally and emotionally, but don't punish yourself for it. Have frank conversations about it. So I hope these tips help you ladies, because it's a monthly thing we have to go through, and I found with myself, the more intentional and the more I'm aware of it, the better I try and help the process. And honestly, each cycle is very different, but I've learned to try and be very accommodative to myself during these periods. I hope that was helpful. I'll see you on part 2, and remember, happy Women's Day to all the women out there. Actually, this morning I went to go buy bagels and stuff, and then I got a free donut because I'm a woman. I'm so sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Remember, do that thing that makes you human, and I am love. I hope you enjoyed this episode like I enjoyed making it. And remember to like and subscribe. See you on part 2.